So welcome to our UofT panel. Thanks for joining us. So just a quick shout out to Pearson Canada for sponsoring these Tuesday Talk series. They have a lot of useful digital study tools and resources you'll use during first and second year. So make sure you follow them on Instagram or Facebook to get study advice, university and college tips from other students, and join their student community and even textbook giveaways. So we're going to do an overview of LEAP and summer programming, getting into our UofT panelists, having a panel discussion, and having Q&A at the end. So an overview of LEAP is a Canadian registered nonprofit and student-run organization since 2020, trying to bridge the gap between high school students and post-secondary education. It has impacted 10,000 plus students across 35 countries through 8 different initiatives. To learn more about LEAP, check out our website, leapcanada.org. So in August, we are starting a new program called the Pathfinder. It's designed to give students an opportunity to explore and immerse themselves in disciplines that go beyond what is taught in educational institutions. It spans over 4 weeks in August with panels, workshops, and live presentations from business, health sciences, design and media to engineering. And you can win up to $1,500 in cash prizes and internship interview at stake. And sponsored by multiple different brands, and you can learn more at leapcanada.org/pathfinder. So we're going to head into our panelists. So, care to introduce yourself?
Hi, everyone. My name is Arya. I go to UTSC. I'm in the psychology co-op program. And some of the things that I did the past few years was swim club, and I was a blog writer for this mental health based club called the Mental Unity Group. I was also an admissions student mentor. And lastly, I currently intern at a company called Done Waiting, which is a progressive political organization.
Thank you, Arya. So next we have Brandon.
Hello, everyone. My name is Brandon. I'm currently going into my third year at UTSC as well. I'm specializing in human biology, so that's a subset of the life sciences program. And I'm actually super happy to be here at LEAP with a lot of the amazing people running LEAP. I'm actually the founder of an organization that kind of works with LEAP sometimes. We do similar things, kind of helping students transition into university, similar to LEAP. I also co-founded a biotech undergrad trying to bridge into biotech kind of community called the Bio Dojo, where we're currently trying to, bridge that interface between undergraduate, kind of getting more exposure and more credibility to them into the biotech space. I'm also one of 22 2020 Laidlaw scholars at UofT, and so I'm currently working on a research project on engineered antibodies, so trying to see how that modulates cancer and your immune system. And I also create a lot of things. I write a weekly newsletter and also put a couple of videos up on YouTube as well. So I'm super happy to be here, and I'm super happy to be here with all the other great panelists.
Thanks, Brandon. I'm moving on to John.
Cool. Hey, everyone. My name is John Costa. I'm incoming third year at UofT in the Arts and Commerce program, which is like the business side of UofT. So this year, I established a new club on campus called the GRC, which stands for the Global Research and Consulting Group. So if any of you guys are interested in consulting, you can learn more about it by just searching it up online. I'm also a TA for a math course in first year, which for those of you who are planning on going to Rotman will probably take, which is Math 133. I'm also involved in college associations currently at Woodsworth College. So yeah, if you know about the colleges, the way it works is St. George campus has a few different colleges and you're affiliated with one of them. And yeah, there's also Flick, which is an opportunity you learn more about for first year to get involved, sort of a mentorship program. And yeah, that's a bit about me.
Thanks, John. And now on to Rosa.
Hi, so I'm also an incoming third year, also at Rotman. I'm a Harvard house mentor, so that's a Rotman thing where they have houses. So if you're interested in going into Rotman, John is also one, so you guys can reach out to either of us. I am also doing a cinema studies minor, so I'm really into film. So I've been a juror and an intern at the Berlin International Film Festival. So if you're ever looking into film or anything, or want to talk about the cinema studies program at U of T, definitely the person to reach out to. And I'm also a barista.
So those are our panelists, and we're going to move on to panel discussion. So we're going to start off with campuses and courses, and then moving on to clubs and extracurricular activities, residents, and then financial aid. So first off, we're going to go, what is the campus life, culture, and environment like at UofT and your specific campus? Arya, do you want to start us off?
Yeah. So at UTSC, I would say that the campus is pretty small compared to SG. I don't really know about Mississauga because I've never been there, but UTSC is pretty small. But I think it really allows you to build connections with like your professors and peers and friends, because it's easier to get like the attention from your professors, and you do end up like running into the same people a lot of the time because it's such a small campus. And so that's really nice. That's definitely the pros of going to like a smaller school.
Yeah, definitely. Brandon, you're also at UTSC?
Yeah, so I don't think I have much to add on top of that, but I can speak a little bit to UTM. I've been on UTM to play basketball a couple of times, so although I've never been directly in classes there, I can definitely speak to the campus. But I think it would be, if we had to rank University of Toronto campuses, I think it would go from University of Toronto St. George, UTM, and then UTSC in terms of the populace, but also the I guess how much space there is. I know there's a lot of construction going on at UTSC and UTM, and that's probably where UofT is going to bridge into in the next couple of years. But I think campus life overall at UTSC, I echo the same sentiments with Arya. Just being a great, small, intimate community where you're able to connect with a lot of really cool people, and also you have access to the greater UofT network within all three campuses as well.
That's true. Rosa, you want to talk about UTSG?
Yeah, so UTSG is probably the largest populace, like Brandon was saying, but it's super fun because it's in the heart of downtown Toronto, and everyone's kind of just super friendly and always willing to help you find your way around, because it can be a little overwhelming because some buildings, like we do have a campus, but some buildings sometimes feel a little further off of campus or something like that. But people are definitely, I mean, I did my first year on like in person, so people were definitely willing to help the lost first years get around to classes and stuff like that. So super friendly campus, and it's super close to everything you could want in Toronto.
Those seem like cool things, UTSG, heart of downtown Toronto. So next question, how would you describe the competitive nature of UofT? Arya, you want to kick this off?
I would say it's definitely, honestly, it's definitely easy to burnt out if you let yourself get burnt out, but don't let that like steer anything, because first year is generally like a little rough for people because they're not used to like the rigor and like the different learning styles. But once you like find your studying methods and the way that you learn the best and learn how to prioritize like everything you're doing, it's not as bad as I'm sure all of you guys are imagining it now. So don't worry about it too much. It'll be fine.
Brandon, you want to add in?
Yeah, so I think this is a stigma that I had going into UofT. And I can't speak on St. George just because I know that's a completely different dynamic from more of the peripheral campuses. But from what I've heard of from UTM and UTSC is that it's not as competitive as St. George, I would say. And I think I would attribute competitiveness to the amount of people at University of Toronto in general. With more people becomes the opportunities, although there's more opportunities, there's also more competition to get those opportunities. So that kind of inherently generates some kind of competitiveness, not that it's toxic competitiveness per se. But I think for the most part, everyone's super helpful. Everyone's super friendly. You do have to be fairly independent at UofT, or I think in university in general. But I think I never found it to be toxic in any way possible.
Rosa, you want to add in?
Yeah, I mean, I can speak for UTSG, and I definitely think it can be easy to go into it thinking it's going to be competitive and kind of catch yourself comparing yourself to others, not necessarily being competitive, but just like comparing your achievements to those of others around you. But there's so many programs at U of T that you're constantly just like meeting people that aren't in your program with whom you like, there's no room for competition because you just are doing so completely different things. And I also think the different programs have different cultures. So there's some programs that obviously just have a little bit more of a competitive nature while others don't. But I think overall, there's, like Brennan was saying, it's not that toxic. It's definitely something that I think is blown out of proportion and like a stereotype. And it's definitely something you can handle. And you kind of just have to remind yourself not to compare yourself to others, because I think that's where a lot of the competitive nature comes from, is just like the self comparisons, not even what's actually going on around you.
Yeah, if you want to go to UofT, just go to UofT. If if it's based on your program of choice. What are the main differences between UofT campuses? Arya, want to start?
I think definitely the biggest difference is the size, one, and the like the subcultures within the campuses, because I'm sure like SG has I'm sure it's more of like in the first slide someone said it was like right in the heart of downtown and like very like big and large. And at like UTSC, it's sort of like you're not really gonna get like lost in the sea of students, you know what I mean? But yeah, that's the main difference.
Brendan?
I think similar to what Arya said, I think it's just campus size. I think would be what the biggest one of the biggest differences, the amount of people there. But I think one thing that I did not know about U of T and when I came in was that even though you're at, let's say, a campus like, let's say, the Scarborough campus, you can still take courses in any other campus as well. And so I think that's something that is uh, maybe worthwhile knowing, that although you're at a specific location, that doesn't prevent you from accessing the resources and opportunities found within the entire institution itself.
Yeah, definitely. I think UofT, I believe there's like alumni networking between all three campuses, which is a bonus. Rosa?
Yeah, kind of just to add on to what Brandon was saying, I distinctly remember like there being buses from like UTM and UTSC that were coming to the UTSG campus, and I'm sure like the same. So it's like very easy to take classes at the other campuses, I'm pretty sure. But kind of what's been said, I think it would be size and location and the subculture that both of those factors create. Because I mean, SG is very big, so you are gonna have classes of like, especially in your first couple years, it's like a lecture of 800 students, you know, and so it is a lot bigger. But if that's kind of what you're looking for, then that's great. And then there's also the chance, that's the nice thing about U of T, is there's the chance to be at a smaller campus. So yeah, I would say those are the big things.
Specific bird courses for first years and notable professors. Arya?
A lot of the bird courses are just intro courses. So ones that stood out to me were intro to environmental science, intro to linguistics, and intro psych. I would say personally, the history or like hardcore STEM classes like comp sci or something, even if they're intro classes, you might struggle in them. One, because if it's history, you'll probably still have like read a textbook, like memorize stuff. But most intro courses are pretty easy to get through.
Brendan?
Yeah, I think just adding on to that, I think I for many STEM, because I'm in the STEM field, I'm doing human bio, so that's a lot of more, I think, technical courses in the future. But I think one thing that really makes a good course is really the professor, and there's quite a bit of good professors, which I think you can learn about from just talking to upper year students and everything. I think everyone here, all the panelists have had their fair share of good and not so good professors. And so I think just really finding out what kind of learning style / teaching style would be best for you to kind of soak in all the knowledge would be the best way to evaluate some of the courses that you plan to take if you have the freedom to choose more bird courses, I guess.
John?
Yeah, for sure. So I definitely echo what the previous panel said, as well as what Brendan touched on, and that's that usually the professors, they do determine your overall experience in a course, and a lot of the courses, it's kind of hard to categorize them as being bird courses. I think it really depends on the individual. So if it's something you actually enjoy, that makes it more of a bird course, if that makes sense. But in my case, I really liked Intro to Financial Markets by Professor Goldrake in first year. So he teaches the course code RSM230, which is primarily taught for art and commerce students.
Thanks for that. And Rosa?
So these, I don't know if, I mean, it's also kind of like what John just said, it kind of depends on what you're good at and what you like. But I definitely think that if you're starting at UTSG, you should look into a lot of the colleges offer a ones program. And those are usually just like smaller, more discussion-based classes. And so some people first like that makes them a bird class if they're more discussion-based. I definitely like them because you were able to meet people and you also have some pretty cool professors in those classes. So definitely look into those. Oh, and you can be in ones that aren't your college. So that's something to note. Like you don't only have to do the ones of your own college.
Yeah, I definitely agree with the fact that you guys some of you guys mentioned how if you take a course and you're not really into it, then it's not really going to be a bird course. It's really what you make of it. So choose a course that you are interested in. Are breadth requirements recommended to be fulfilled during the first 2 years? Brendan?
Yeah, so my general piece of advice for that is I think you should be a little bit more critical in terms of when you're selecting courses to incorporate these breadth requirements in a way so that it kind of acts like a bird course or something that is more of exploratory, something that you can afford to, have a little bit more time off of, I guess, off the course, and then you just take it for the enjoyment of learning something different, without being so mentally demanding, I guess. And I think that's the way I've looked at breadth requirements. And so, that being said, I don't think it would be necessary to fill them within the first 2 years. Although I know for graduate programs that you may need to consider if you're taking like a first year course in your third or fourth year, that may impact your application for graduate programs.
That's a really good point. John?
Yeah, so I don't really see the need to like really force yourself to do them in the first 2 years, as long as they're done by the time you graduate. You'll find that a lot of the breadth requirements are already covered by your programs courses. So take ones that firstly match the remaining courses you need to graduate, and are ones that you need to fulfill new requirements. Like in my case, I did a couple of language courses, and I think that matches the first breadth requirements at UofT. So definitely do your research beforehand. And if you are interested in going to art and commerce specifically, your specialist also determines when is the best time to do your elective courses to meet the breadth requirements, since the finance economics specialist involves you taking a lot of required courses versus a management one where you have that flexibility towards the end of your degree.
And Rosa?
Yeah, kind of what's been said. But I think that when I first was reading about breadth requirements, I was like very overwhelmed and intimidated by them because I thought, oh goodness, I have to take all these classes that on top of having to take classes to get my degree. But I actually think within my first year, like by chance, completed my breadth requirements. So they're like surprisingly easy to complete. Like as long as you're taking a little bit of a variety of courses and not just really honing in on one specific subject, you should be able to get them completed. But I also don't only try to take courses that still interest you when you're completing your breadth requirements. But I definitely wouldn't freak out about them in the first 2 years. You will have time, and especially as you get closer to fourth year, you usually end up having more flexibility in your schedule.
I was definitely freaking out when I had to choose courses, but I'm pretty sure I finished all my breadth requirements because I think I had a bit more flexibility in first year versus upper years, I think. Any advice on choosing courses? Aria?
what worked really well for me is semester, I would look at my program requirements and like just go through like you have like A level courses and B level courses and C and D. And I would go through each one and see like what I could fit onto my schedule. But you should also remember that you do have like 4 or more years to complete all of these, so you don't have to rush. Like you don't have to take like a bunch of these required courses for your program every single semester. Like you're totally good if you take some like bird courses and some like courses that you just found were like interesting to you. So yeah, allow yourself to take courses that genuinely interest you along with like, whatever is required for your program.
Brendan?
So I don't want to reiterate everything that I put on this slide because I think those would be my top three kind of points. But I think if I had to add on to that or kind of summarize, that would be to kind of just really be proactive when choosing your courses in terms of getting the knowledge that you need and figuring out your personal priorities in terms of what you can do with those courses and to leverage them to get opportunities. I know like some of the Rotman people can probably speak to this better, but I know some courses that are you can take earlier can help you kind of get internships at a later date. And so I think having that stuff in mind, just looking at your priorities is really, really helpful for just planning out your timetable for the next year or so.
John?
Yeah, for sure. So to touch on Brendan's points, it is true that if you take certain courses, mainly in your second year, because first year it tends to be quite strict what you can take to make it into Rotman in your second year. That does prepare you for certain career paths, particularly in finance. But shed some insight on myself, I'm more geared towards consulting. Currently, I'm interning at UI in their technical consulting practice in Toronto, and they don't expect me to have any knowledge beforehand. So don't feel like it's a requirement. It really isn't. It's a good to have. And yeah, so what I outlined here has to do with reaching out to upper years. I personally found upper years to shed a lot of valuable information and advice based on what they took when it comes to like picking courses. And that's how I learned about a lot of electives, other not as well known courses, even within Rotman. So definitely reach out to upper years.
And Rosa?
Yeah, I agree with the upper years thing. That was one of the big things for me, is just you're gonna get to know upper years through certain like extracurriculars and stuff. So most people will always be more than happy to give you advice and kind of help you along the way. There's this one thing also called like degree calculator or tracker or something from UofT where you can like log in and they know what your what degree you're trying to get is, and then degree explorer, I'm seeing that now. Yes, that's what it's called. And they know what your degree that you're working towards is, and they can tell you like how many credits you have left for certain things. And like for me, I'm doing a minor, and so it's really nice to be able to also keep track of, oh, I still need this many credits towards my minor, because my minor kind of has nothing to do with my major or my specialist. So it's like easy to lose sight of one of each of them. And so it's nice to just like look back on that and be like, oh, I have like 5 credits that I still need for this. So yeah.
I do agree with the Degree Explorer because it did help me choosing my courses. And moving on to clubs and extracurriculars. So can you guys briefly talk about what was your involvement in clubs, extracurriculars, sports during your first 2 years? Arya?
So one of the biggest things I would say is definitely take advantage of like the gym and like of the gym, because I think it's a great way to like get into like lifting or do cardio or like play sports with friends, and it's totally free, which is great. Regarding clubs, I think there are so many different clubs and opportunities that you guys and like you think of a topic and there will probably be a club for it. So definitely like just get involved in what you're interested in, and don't be scared of like going into a club meeting or something, because I'm sure they're just happy to welcome you and happy to have you there. So yeah, and I've met a lot of cool people through my extracurriculars. So yeah, would definitely recommend getting involved.
Brendan?
I think Arya touched on a lot of great points. I would also say that opportunities are not only found within your institution. So, for example, there's in the science field, the equivalent of internships would be kind of doing research or kind of going that direction. And you can kind of get those opportunities from any single institution. Just because you go to U of T doesn't mean you're confined to a U of T professor to work with a U of T professor, work in a U of T lab. And so I think that should open up your world quite a bit. That's something I didn't know. And also, I think just if there, like Arya said, if there's something, um, if you have an interest in something, there definitely is a club for that. And I don't think, again, if there isn't for some reason, there's definitely a lot of really cool pipelines to kind of generate or create and kind of start your own club that suits that specific need, whether that be within the institution or something on your own outside of school.
John?
Yeah, so in my case, I kind of went in wanting to be involved not just in Rotten Commerce. It's often seen as like this bubble within the larger St. George campus. So I kind of split it into two parts. So the first one was program specific one. So those are the Rotten clubs. And the second part is college specific clubs. So that's more of the student association. So depending on the college you are, you'll have your own designated student association or society as it's called. So Woodworth has WICSA, but like Victoria College has the USAC, University College has UC Lit. These are all things you can find online. So that's how I got involved in my first year, by being a diversity representative at the college. So you help host events for other first years and get to know like more senior people and the dean even of the residence and the college to help like promote events. And then for Rotten Commerce ones, you can find them online by just searching up the clubs. And ideally pick one that really matches your needs. Like as I said earlier, for me, it was consulting. So I joined the Rocky Commerce Consulting Association as an intern. But there's a ton of different clubs. And if you just search them up online, you'll see a large variety.
Rosa?
So John already covered all the like Rotman stuff and college stuff. But another thing adding on to that is there's also just at the beginning of the year, like a big club fair where it's neither program nor college specific clubs, where it's just like the entire UTSG like student population can join. And obviously, like, I don't know, I was a little intimidated, but like what's been said, just go. People like always love to have more members and have more people at the meetings and stuff like that. And also for UTSG people, there's Hard House, which like has little events, and there's also a gym in there, which is usually pretty more on the empty side because it's kind of in a basement, but you know, but also definitely look into like the sports facilities because there's 3 on UTSG campus, all of which are available to students. And I don't know, for me at least, when I'm really stressed, it's nice to just like get a workout in to clear my head and stuff like that. And so it's really nice to just have those walking distance and available to us all.
So I want to quickly answer this question. So how would the fairs work this year, though? I know everything was online, so I would suggest looking at Facebook groups, like UTSC or UTSG Facebook groups. Usually clubs do post on Instagram and Facebook, so do check them out. And oftentimes courses would often advertise their club. So moving on to residence, what was your residence experience like at UofT? So Arya, can you briefly talk about that?
Yes. I had a really good residence experience at UTSP. I met some of my best friends there, and I think it, as a like international student, I think it really gave me a sense of community, especially because the school was so small, and it is sort of a community school. It can be a little bit challenging making friends just in your classes or just in like your clubs. The residents like bond that you have with like the people on your floor, the people in your like, dorm is really cool. And I think, yeah, would definitely recommend. I think it's a great time. I don't think there's a lot of cons. I mean, maybe the cost, like the extra cost of housing.
Brandon?
So I actually didn't live on res. I think this may be I don't know if this is Rosa who lived at Victoria College. I was a commuter. So maybe I can speak on that if you are interested maybe in the Q&A segment, but let me just pass it off to maybe John.
Yeah, sure. So in my very unbiased opinion, Woodruff College is the best college and residence in downtown's campus. So that's where I lived in first year. It's good for so many reasons, and it would take me another entire webinar to go through them. But what I can say overall is that firstly, it's the cheapest residence on campus. Secondly, it doesn't have a meal plan, which is good if you enjoy cooking, you have your own kitchen. Third and foremost, you have your own rooms, which is really nice. And finally, there's this very cool basement at Woodruff, which has like foosball tables, cool study spots. And yeah, check out Woodruff College.
Rosa, do you want to add something or?
Yeah, so that's actually the one that says Brendan, that's me. So I'm in Victoria College, and I mean, I obviously disagree with John. But I would say, because Wordsworth, for example, it's like everybody's residence experience is the exact same style of living. Whereas like Vic, we have singles, doubles, then we even have suites where people have like their own room in like an apartment style where you cook your own food. And then for people that are in dorm rooms, we have a meal plan, which is like an all-you-can-eat cafeteria. And I don't know, they're all really well maintained. And if you're kind of looking for the pretty Harry Potter-esque vibes, we definitely have like a very old campus, and the rooms are pretty. Some of them even have like bay windows and stuff. So it's definitely pretty. And we also have a couple really nice like common spaces where you can go and hang out and stuff like that. And for first year, it's a really great place to live because a lot of the big lecture hall classes actually take place on Vic campus. So you can basically just roll out of bed and roll into class. So
Definitely choosing Victoria College in this college battle. I want to join the Hogwarts vibe. So Arya, can you quickly talk about what is the college system of residence?
So at UTSC, you can give a preference for whether you either want a like townhouse style or whether you want an apartment style of living, and they'll like try to match you up with whatever you want. Personally, I prefer the apartment style because not only do you get to like meet your like flatmates, you get to meet the people on the floor and the people like on the floors above and below you and stuff. And I think it's a much larger sense of like camaraderie as compared to the townhouses. Those are kind of like 4 people in like a house, but they are separate. So, but yeah, they all of the residences at UTSC have like you either get your own room or a shared room and like 1 to 2 bathrooms and then like a kitchen and a living room. So you're like all set. You have like everything you need there.
Rosa?
So for UTSG, it's like, I think there's 7 colleges. John, do you know the actual number? But I think there's roughly,
Yeah, I think so.
I think there's 7 different colleges. And while you're applying to the school, you also rank your colleges by preference. So definitely like take that seriously and look into which colleges interest you. And also each of the colleges kind of has different vibes per se, like different focuses. And so that's also something to look into. And kind of like I was just saying with John, the different styles of what the dorms are like if you're thinking about living in residence. They like each of the colleges has a different setup. So it's definitely good to look into that as well. And I know a couple of the colleges you have to apply, like if you rank them first, you have to do an application on top of it. So obviously I think it's a couple questions and they're pretty easy. So it's definitely just do your research before filling that part of the application out, because I know a lot of people just kind of go, okay, whatever, I'll rank them like this. And then you're in your college all 4 years. And I mean, it can matter as much or as little as you want, but it definitely is a nice community, in my opinion.
I believe they have like different bios for like all the different colleges, so do check them out. So quickly, what is the meal plan system like? Arya?
At UTSC, there weren't like a ton of great food options. At least when I was there, which was like 2019 to 2020. So I would recommend cook at least some of your food. But the meal plans are pretty good. You can get like a certain number of meals per day, I think. I don't actually remember that well. But yeah, the food at UTSC is okay. So I'd say plan to cook some of your own food.
John?
Yeah, I somewhat mentioned this earlier, but Winter College does not have a meal plan, so we cooked like in our res. But there is an option to have like a standalone meal plan if you like. So if you're at a residence or even off-campus residence that doesn't have a meal plan, then you can always get a one-off one downtown.
Rosa?
Also kind of what I said, Vic does have a meal plan. There's, I think, like 3 different options. Also one for if you're living off residence or something, or if you are living on residence but just don't think you're going to eat the meal, like use the meal plan very often. There's like one where you have less meals. And it's all you can eat once you get to the dining hall. So you kind of just like swipe in once, and then as long as you're still in there, you can have as much as you want. And it has like, there's always pizzas, and then there's always a salad bar and always some sort of soup. And then there's kind of the rest of the meals like change every day. So you can kind of make it what you want. It's pretty good. Obviously some days are better than others. So yeah.
Brandon, do you want to kind of hype up UTSC's food options? If there
I
are.
I don't think UTSC could pay me to hype up their food options, to be honest. It's like, it's not like the reason I say that is just because there's not much options. Like there's pizza, there's KFC, there's like Subway, like all the basic stuff. I think, I mean, Arya, correct me if I'm wrong, but there hasn't been much change to that. There's not much variety. And so I think, I mean, it's a university, I guess. So I don't think I'm not expecting like Baton Rouge or something. But still, it's not. I don't think it's like the best meal plan, but they're definitely like I would agree with all you. I think it's good to get some groceries and learn how to cook, which is a life skill either way. So it's good.
Prepare for the summer. Prepare for September by practicing some cooking over the summer. So moving on, getting around campus. What about for commuters? Arya?
You don't have to worry about getting around campus at UTSC because it's really small, so you can walk everywhere. But the buses were a great way to get to like the train station if you want to go downtown, or if you want to like go to any stores and stuff to get like groceries and stuff. And they're pretty much like always in service, so those are super convenient.
Brandon?
Yeah, I think one thing that Rosa touched on earlier was there was some buses that went from UTM, UTSC to UTSG. I think that has been, I think they stopped doing that actually as of recently, this year or last year maybe. So that's not there anymore. But I mean, the TTC if you're in Toronto, that's a public transit. That's been decent, I guess, in terms of getting around to other campuses within UofT. But yeah, UTSC walking is definitely accessible, and you can pretty much get anywhere relatively quickly.
Rosa?
So UTSG also, while it's a big campus, I feel like most of the time I would walk to classes and stuff like that. But because there's so much stuff like right around campus, we definitely take a lot of like public transportation. And also in the winter, sometimes I was lazy and I would like take the subway from like one side of campus to the other if I was cold and didn't want to walk through the snow. And so yeah, there's multiple bus, streetcar, and subway stops on campus. So you can basically from any part of campus easily get onto public transit, but also just walk around.
And moving on to our last question, financial aid. What are some resources both externally and at UofT? Brandon?
Yeah, so I think U of T does try to, I mean, in my opinion, they do try to provide as many resources and opportunities as possible, mainly through their work study program as well as Award Explorer. That's where you can find a list of all of the awards available that you could apply for, and also all the different jobs and opportunities that you could go for as well. On top of that, though, I'd recommend going through Facebook group chats or just Facebook pages in general that kind of look at places where clubs or student groups are more likely to post their announcements in terms of positions that you could apply for. And that usually comes in the beginning of the year, so September right away, right when you get into school, and also right at the start of second semester. And so, and there's some right now actually during the summer where clubs are trying to hire execs during the summer. But I think those hot spots or hot times, I guess, would be a great time to kind of stay on Facebook, stay up to date with what's going on in terms of the student body's news, and get involved with various opportunities / resources.
John?
Yeah, totally agree. There's usually like a database where you're able to filter through awards, and I think that's applicable to all campuses, and you can just filter it based on the program you're in, type of eligibility requirements you need, and so I'd say that's definitely a good first resource. And then each college also has their own awards, which you can also find on that database, as well as the college associations. So those ones aren't usually as publicized, but if you follow them on social media, or you, I guess, like pay close attention to initiatives that are happening in your college, you'll be able to, find those like hidden awards that are often not as competitive as the main larger sum money college ones.
Rosa?
Yeah, definitely what has been said. And then also in terms of the colleges, I know that a lot of them even give like merit-based ones at the end of a year without even having to apply for them. And so there'll be like a certain GPA cutoff, and anyone who's above that, they will give a certain amount of money to. And also there's just very specific scholarships. Like if you have time on your hands, honestly, some of them are kind of funny how specific they are. And so they're super specific, and you can take the time to look through those. And if you find any that apply to you, there's a good chance you're probably one of the few people that all these like specific requirements do apply to. So you can definitely apply for those and probably be like one of the few people that could even be eligible to get it. So yeah, just take the time to look through that.
For some external scholarships, there's websites like Scholarship Tree, for some scholarships. So we are entering our question and answer period. We are going to take a couple of questions because we are running a bit behind. So do put them in the chat.
I can just jump in while questions come in because I see something from Namja and I think I can answer that hopefully briefly. Yes, you definitely can. You start off, I'd recommend if any of you guys are interested in doing, I think anything in general, but specifically in sciences and you want to get into research, I'd really recommend that you focus on working on your projects. So doing a lot of things such as writing or building these ideas, and then going to professors and labs, not directly, but indirectly through a graduate student, and then kind of emailing them or messaging them about that, trying to get into their lab. And that's the best way to do it. I know a lot of grade 12s have been very successful in terms of getting into research labs and are doing great. There definitely is an abundance of opportunity. It's very competitive, but I think if you show your passion and just be genuine with it, you have a great shot.
So here's a question. What is the supplementary application process like at UofT?
I didn't have to do anything.
I can take that. I know Rotman has a supplementary application, and that one was you had to answer a couple questions. They were like essay questions that you had a certain like allotted period of time for. I think it was like 30 minutes. And then you had to do one video answer where you got like 90 seconds to prepare prepare your answer for the video and then you just like filmed yourself answering the question. But honestly, it was pretty straightforward. And they do give you, before you go into like the time period, they do give you past questions that are going to be pretty similar to the ones that you'll get. So you can kind of prepare for them.
Thanks, Rosa. Are professors easy to communicate for the most part?
Yes.
Okay, do you want to explain more, Brendan?
I think the majority of professors are there because they enjoy teaching and want to help students learn. So that being said, I think they're more than happy to help in any way they can. But that also being said, you should also respect their time and all the other students' times with their respective questions, and make sure to do your due diligence before coming up to professor and asking them a question. I usually go by rule of thumb is if the question can be answered via Google, then there's no need to ask anyone about it if you can answer it via Google.
Michelle asked, how would you declare a double major? Would you have to take courses pertaining to both majors in first year, or is that something you do later? Brendan?
Yeah, I don't know if anyone wants to jump in because I don't want to hog all the questions. But in short, yes, you have to take a couple of prerequisites, and you do that through this program selection thing that we do through our UofT kind of academic hub called Acorn. And so we can just select our majors via there, and we just have to make sure we have the prerequisites before entering. Prerequisite courses and the minimum GPA or CGPA.
Is it possible to transfer or switch campuses? Does anyone want to answer?
Definitely is, yeah. Although it may be hard. I think for programs like Rotman, it may be hard to switch into Rotman, although not impossible. For programs such as life science, I think people do that all the time.
There's a question about practicals. So are any of you guys taking practicals or tutorials? What are those?
Practicals for the like chemistry, like science classes, they're just like in each practical you do, I don't know if that's what you're talking about, like science classes, but for each practical you basically just do like an experiment. And it takes so long because in the beginning the TA like explains what you're doing, and then you have to go through like safety stuff, and then you like do the experiment. So it does take a long time, especially if like the reactions or whatever in the experiment take a long time. Yeah, honestly, it gets kind of tiring because 3 hours is a long time. And practicals tend to be the things that students like the least about classes. So do not sign up for like AM practicals. Those will ruin your life.
I actually have the contrary experience. I love practicals. I think that reinforces learning. For me personally, I know many people have different opinions about it, but I think it's great to actually be a little bit more hands-on with what you learned within lectures. But of course, everyone's opinion is like completely different.
We did drop a feedback form, so if you guys don't mind filling that out, you could earn 5 brownie points, and you can win possible prizes as well. Last question. I guess this question is about the co-op program. I know, Arya, you're in the co-op program, right? Do you want to talk about that briefly?
Yeah, what question? Oh, is it the last question?
Yeah.
Oh, do you apply for the co-op program, or does the university choose you for the co-op program? Is that your question? If I'm sorry, if I'm understanding that correctly, you do have to like apply for the co-op program. I made that mistake actually when I applied to UTSC. I just applied for like the psychology like major or whatever, and I thought it was in the co-op program, and I wasn't. So then I had to transfer into it. So yeah, make sure you apply for the program that you want to apply for. And which requirements? If you're talking about like courses, they're pretty much the same. Like the psychology major and the co-op requirements are fairly the same. They're like almost exactly the same.